Hey everyone, it's Matilyn, and I am here with Delia Melody, and we're just going to be talking about being trans women who make music and like if it influences us making music and like how like does it influence the kind of music we make and all that stuff. Delia, do you think that you being trans influences you making music?
That's such a broad question.
It is.
Yeah, it definitely has impacts on it. The way I do things, the way my music is going to be perceived by people, the themes I choose to write about. Obviously, I mean, when it's a huge part of your identity. I mean, it's only one piece, but it's a pretty big one. So I definitely, yeah, I'd say it has an impact on it.
Do you feel like it influences like the sound, like or like the genre of the music you make?
There's kind of a joke that me and my friends have, that my music is genre fluid. um, you know, it's I think the biggest impact that it has on the music is really just the experiences that I have to write off of and to make my music off of, which are just, I mean, they're experiences which would not have even existed had I been cis. I feel like aside from just the themes that I end up writing about, which a lot just has to deal with like the struggles that I went through after coming out, after ending up losing a lot of people, basically, really almost everyone I'd known for 27 years of my life, including my family, my parents, pretty much every friend I had, save just one or two, and even they were gone for a while. So, and I was homeless for a while and trying to figure everything out about myself, all on top of it. So it gave me a lot to write from and work from that I never would have had before. For the longest time before I came out, there's all these different reasons I kind of gave myself not to do music, even though it has been a dream of mine ever since I was a small child to do music professionally. It's just what I've always wanted to do. But I told myself, especially after I came out, I did decide that I wanted to do music, most definitely, but I wanted to wait until I could get like a vocal feminization surgery, which is a more reliable procedure with better results than it's been in the past. A risky procedure, and people have always found I've never liked my voice. I'll be completely honest about that. I don't like my voice, but people have always found something relatable, I suppose, or pleasant about it. Tells me that it's specifically because it's a trans woman's voice. They say that when they listen to it, they tell me your voice doesn't sound like a cis woman's voice, but it also doesn't sound like a cis man's voice. Your voice is unique, and they tell me that it's relatable to a lot of people because of that. And when it comes to like genres and how that's influenced by my gender, I really it kind of does to an extent, because you kind of try to find what works well with your sound, and then you have the different influences that you've had throughout your whole life and trying to piece them all together. It's really, really strange because there's this point that you get to after a while with a lot of things, not only like your voice, but with a lot of things where you kind of teach yourself how not to be yourself. When you're transgender, before you come out, it's there were things like how I walk, how I talk, that I tried so hard to repress, that just became so stiff or different, or like trying so hard to be a man. And my voice has definitely been one of them. But it's difficult trying to come out of that and figure out, what's my voice, what's not my voice, what's natural to me, what's not natural to me, which sounds like it would be just so intuitive, but it really isn't when you spent that long just, hiding everything about yourself, it's really hard to know what is and isn't you. And your voice is definitely one of those things. So when I recorded the single Phoenix, the very first recording I did of it, which has been completely redone for the album, but that recording of it that's on my channel with music video, I spent days upon days, and the days turned into weeks, where I would just every day be killing my voice, trying over and over and over again, trying different things, trying to be happy with it. It didn't help that I had a lot to learn about production techniques at the time as well. But, you know, just trying different things, especially with, I've got a nasal quality in my voice a lot. But one of the biggest things was trying to figure out what was the feminine in my voice and what sounded forced and what may have come simply as a consequence of going through puberty influenced by testosterone. One of the things in my head is that whenever I am writing my music, the first step in that process is it just pops into my head. I just start hearing it. It's like it almost claws its way out sometimes. I'll just be saying, I'll start hearing it in my head, but I always hear this cis woman's voice singing it. And so the key is not, you know, a key that I could sing it in. And so I have to figure out how to change it like that. Work things with my voice. The last time I had any kind of formal vocal training was in elementary school, and I was in like the all-county chorus back then in 5th grade. They had to kind of beat the tendency for me to want to be soprano out of me back then. But you know, that was the last training of any kind I'd had, so I'd really kind of forgotten in a lot of ways how to use my voice, and I had ended up emulating. I love to do karaoke, and I'd end up emulating a lot of the singers for the music that I enjoyed there, which was all like male singers, especially like Davey Havoc from AFI and Black Audio. Got into my voice for a long time, as well as, and there's still a little bit of it there, as well as like, oh gosh, I don't even know the name of the guy from Depeche Mode, or like Ian Curtis from Joy Division. You know, just all these singers that have this kind of, I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, like Davey doesn't necessarily, he sometimes has the depth, but you know, it's, I don't know how to describe it, but that kind of voice, you know, that kind of, and people were always surprised to hear it come out of me. But so it obviously, it seemed like when I started to do music, and it's like, okay, well, I'm a woman, I'm doing music, it's going to be really weird if it sounds like this. And so I had to figure everything out and try to, you know, work things out with like breathing techniques and figuring out where to let vocal fries into my voice and not to let vocal fries into my voice. And breathiness is like a huge issue that I have. It's like I wish that my voice were a bit more breathy, but my voice is very kind of forceful. It's a very large voice, I suppose. And people have always, whenever I'm just talking at normal volume, it basically sounds like I'm shouting, and it's just kind of the way my voice is. So it shaped the way that I hear my music in my head, because to me it's like, when I listen to music, there's differences between the music that men make, the music that women make a lot of the time. And, you know, the music that I make is definitely music that a woman would make. But every now and then I feel like, I don't know, I get really into my head, really interested in like getting deeper into the concept of gender and wondering like, you know, how much any individual really is kind of like male or female to any extent, and how that comes out in the things that we do. But every now and then it feels like, you know, I look at some of my music and I'm like trying to look at, I get really self-conscious about it, because I'm like, okay, is this coming out like a woman's music? And I'm like, well, obviously it is. I'm a woman, I made it. It's a woman's music. And I think it's just, it's the depth of my voice that causes me a lot of times to listen to it and feel like something is just off. you know, as compared to what I've heard before. But then I just kind of try to remind myself, it's like, well, this is just because you've been conditioned listening to music that only cis men and cis women have been making, and yours is neither of those things. It's not going to sound like either of them. I've worried about it, you know, like I said, one of my friends always telling me that it's very relatable music. I've always worried about it actually ending up being the opposite because of that. I've always worried about my music alienating people because it doesn't sound like anything that they've heard before. But luckily, I found that hasn't been the case.
I can definitely relate to that. I mean, my album, I don't know if you've like listened to any of my album, but Nights of Glitter and Sadness, like it just came out like at the beginning of this year, and I was actually like thinking about doing an album since like for like two or 3 years probably, and like, but like the one thing that I was always afraid of was my voice, because I always hated it. Like, I don't know, I have like really bad voice dysphoria, and like I still do. Like I'm actually kind of trying to train my voice now so I can like make music again, but like, and then there was kind of came this point where I just kind of felt like I had to like accept it and just be like, whatever, like I want to make music because it makes me happy and like it really helps me through stuff, so that's what I want to do. And something that I tried doing once was I kind of like tried like my hatred towards my voice like influence like one of the songs that I made. One of the songs that I have is called The Freakin' Girl Clothes, and it's basically a song how society is just like treating me like a joke, and it's a really depressing, raw song about dysphoria and being treated like you're not a real woman and like not even like a human being really. And like the song is, for the most part, it's spoken word, and then in the chorus I sing, but like in the song I'm pretty much like kind of like, I don't want to say yelling, but like I'm kind of being loud. I'm kind of like crying a bit. It's like, it's a really dramatic song, and I definitely like let my voice dysphoria like help me like bring out more emotion in the song. And it's one of the songs I'm most known for actually, and I'm really proud of that song. It's one of my favorite songs I've ever written.
I like what you had to say in regards to taking that dysphoria and kind of channeling it into your music, and really how society does treat us, not only like we're not real women, but not real people even, you know. I mean, and it goes for, you know, transgender men are generally not treated like real men. Non-binary people aren't treated like anything real, even by people within our own community a lot of the times, unfortunately. And society just doesn't treat any of us like we're human, and it's like they don't even realize it. And, you know, I feel like when we talk about this, and like when you're saying you talked about your sound and how you struggled with it and struggled with your voice and, you know, wanted to do training for it, and eventually just kind of came to a point where you're like, well, maybe I just need to accept it. There's this unique struggle that we have as transgender people between dysphoria and unconditional self-love. These two concepts that seem like they're constantly at war with each other, because we have all of the things that society tells us we have to adhere to in order to be valid, which is all a load of bull. We internalize that a lot, but then at the same time, we do have the dysphoria, which is just naturally there for those of us who experience dysphoria. There's really not much that you can do as far as radical self-acceptance to change that. I mean, that's the entire reason that conversion therapy, you know, doesn't work and ends up resulting in suicides and violence towards self and repression and all sorts of issues, is because you can't change those certain things. Like there's to me, there's been certain things that I've been able to accept about my appearance. But then other things which were caused by having a puberty which was heavily influenced by testosterone that I just cannot deal with, like my facial hair, which is why I've had it removed. There's the point of self-love where it's like, I should just accept my voice the way it is. There's also the point of, if that dysphoria is genuine, there's nothing wrong with trying to train your voice. It's just, you know, without surgical interventions, it's like there's only so much that you can do with things. Like you can teach yourself if you don't have natural prosody, you can teach yourself prosody, and then, you know, controlling your breathing to get the right amount of like breathiness that you want. If you want to have any kind of Kesha-esque vocal fry in parts, you know, these are all things that you can learn and that you can train yourself to do. You can even, you know, you can learn about your head voice. You can train yourself how to get into that, and even sometimes, you know, kind of break through that area, you know, between that and the fall to get it to where it doesn't sound like the Bee Gees and it sounds really good. I know someone personally who's actually very good with that with her voice. And then there's some guy on Vine. I'm not really intimately familiar with Viners, I guess, if you call, I don't know what you call them, but his voice also is just, you know, he can sound just like a cis woman, honestly. And then you got people like, even just like from older like 70s and 80s metal groups like Geddy Lee from Rush. Before I knew anything about Rush and I just heard the music on the radio, I always thought that it was a female-fronted band. So, you know, you can do certain things with your voice, but there's going to be limitations. Like, I tried for the longest time, and a lot of people don't know this, but I actually do have a minor disability, which causes me issues with my voice. Just mainly with my throat. There's like several times a day I end up just choking and gagging randomly on nothing, basically, because of this issue. And so my voice gets really strained really easily. And so trying to train my voice to try and break those barriers and get a good quality at these higher pitches, which I can reach, but just can't do well, and it strains the hell out of my voice, and I just finally gave up on it. And what I decided was to sing naturally. I mean, for lack of anything better, I learned to kind of love certain qualities of my voice, especially performing for people and having people react so positively towards it as they have. It became a lot easier to accept at that point. And what I figured out was that one of the major differences in the sound that you normally kind of think of and associate with singing and with men singing really kind of has to do with the keys that we as human beings have arbitrarily decided to make music in. A lot of times when you hear a cis female singer, her voice is obviously generally going to be higher in pitch than, you know, than a cis male voice, or in any case, really, you know, a vagina owner's voice is generally going to be higher than a penis owner's voice. So what that does, because of the keys that we do our music in, and I can't believe how long it took me to notice this, but you end up with a lot of times vagina owners really kind of singing more in the lower to mid areas of their ranges, even though it's higher pitch, they're singing in the lower to mid areas of their ranges, whereas a lot of the times penis owners are singing these, so fun just talking about genitals and music at the same time, are singing a lot of times more in the mid to higher reaches of their ranges. I started by just trying to find music that I liked by people who by cis women that I wanted to kind of emulate, like Michelle Branch, Taylor Swift, Alanis Morissette, even Amy Lee from Evanescence, Lacuna Coil was another. And I started trying to see, you know, where I could maybe fit into these ranges if I just tried to sing the way they were singing, but with my voice, you know, as opposed to trying to match their pitch, trying to match their timbre, trying to match where they were within their ranges. What I discovered was that when I tried to do that, their voices were lower than mine. Obviously not in a literal, you know, their voices are higher pitched than mine, but on the musical scale, when you adjust it, their voices were anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 whole steps lower than mine. the easiest time I had was never with, you know, a lot of pop singers who are altos, but more with singers who are sopranos, like Sharon Adele from Within Temptation, Floor Jansen from Nightwish, Amy Lee from Evanescence, even though hers gets a little low for me sometimes, and the woman from, I can't remember her name, Christina something. But those were the ones where I found that I could sing more comfortably. Even then, it was still a little bit low sometimes. So what I started doing whenever I wanted to play that kind of music is I would just, because I've studied music theory, I have a very easy time with key modulation and things like that. So I would just modulate the key, the whatever song it was in, and then just start trying to play and sing along like that. And it just that made me incredibly happy, because it started to work and I started to really get the quality I wanted. It's still really kind of it's a struggle with my own music because of the fact that I'm hearing it in my head and I'm writing it that way. And I really feel like the way I sing when I do my own music is kind of somewhere in between the way that a cis man and a cis woman would sing. And like we were talking earlier about it being relatable according to some people, I feel like that kind of is what makes it relatable. I feel like, you know, people of either gender can relate to my music very easily. And it's held through. But one of the things that you mentioned about your song, where you got, you know, you took that dysphoria and you channeled it into all your frustration about society, it brings to me, my mind, anything that a transgender person does, especially when it's something as intimate as creating art, which is what you're doing when you're making music, is just naturally going to have a tendency to be revolutionary and to break outside of the accepted standards of what society says and is not okay. Because, I mean, society can't even figure out to themselves whether or not we're okay, which really isn't even something that should be up for debate. But, you know, I feel that transgender musicians, honestly, huge role in the upcoming years, as more of us are starting to acceptance that was never possible when society was horrifyingly even more transphobic it still is today. You know, when the idea of being a trans woman and being a musician as a serious idea was, you know, something that people would laugh at. I guess a few people still would, but now to me it seems more like it's something that people would have an interest in, would want to hear, and once they start, and we recognize that now, as we're at a point where we're just kind of sick and tired of putting up with it, and we're just ready to be ourselves and tell the world to go screw, that people will start, they'll start hearing us more and more, and they'll realize that there's something unique that we have that the world needs. Art thrives off of diversity, and really, in my opinion, you know, starves in a world where suddenly everything is the same. And we can give back some of that diversity, and it's, you know, with just how revolutionary it is, it's going to be a major, and I'm really excited to for this time when this is happening. Hey everyone, thanks again so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw today, be sure to hit that like button and share so that your friends can enjoy it too. Be sure to subscribe because there's more where that came from, including activism and awareness videos, tutorials, you can follow my transition, and even check out some of my music. I also want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters because y'all are what make this channel possible. Thank you. If you're not a patron yet and you want to find out how you can get awesome rewards like autographed prints from my modeling shoots and more for your support, just go to www.patreon.com/DeliaMelody to find out how you can sign up today. See you next time and be yourself.